I finally have a guest. Lisa de Caux, what a fabulous guest. Lisa has a company called LdC Editorial. She is a professional editor and proofreader, and I know how good she is because she was on my book team for The Mystery of the Squashed Self. So she knows my book very well. I asked her if she resonated with any of the cases that are investigated in the book, all about small business owners who are doing self-squashing things that is holding them back. And she said, well, yeah, pretty much all of them. That's not surprising because they're very human, relatable stories. So you will hear some stories from Lisa, and just like she does on her YouTube channel, when she appears on LinkedIn, grab yourself a nice cuppa and enjoy these very relatable self-squashing stories. And I tell you, the first one is an absolute hoot. So this is Self-Belief Unsquashed, and I'm Tricia Lewis, somebody who hit their late teens in a hot summer with Donna Summer, and I threw some moves on those disco floors, and I thought I was pretty unsquashed. But in hindsight, I was doing a lot of self-squashing. And it was only as a late developer, when I went and did a uni degree, when I set up my business, when I wrote a book and did a TEDx and took up climbing, that I realized how much self-squashing I'd been doing. And I'm kind of quite unsquashed now, properly. So I'm just showing up to share with lots of little human insights aimed at squashing your self-doubt and unsquashing your self-belief. Here we go. Just kick us off with a story.
I'm rewinding a bit. I'm a career changer, and I was a chartered accountant for many years before I became an editor. And when I think about my beat of fibs, it tends to all come from that career change. So I had started my business, and I've been running it for a few months, and I thought, okay, I'm going to screw my courage to the sticking place. I am going to go to a networking event, and it was my very first networking event as an editor and proofreader. So I was a bit nervous, I was a bit scared, but I did it. I went. And as we all sat round the table, we all introduced ourselves, said, I'm this, I'm that, and the other. And for the very first time, I said, I'm a proofreader. It was very exciting. It was an exciting moment. But one of the other people at that table said, I'm never going to need a proofreader because I'm really good at Scrabble. Yes. That was a moment. That was a moment. But what that did...
Oh no, Lisa, I have to know, what did you betray anything with your facial expression at this point? Because I would, because I've got a very over-the-top facial expression thing. I imagine you kept very calm.
I did keep calm, because keeping calm is my thing. But I felt like I'd been kicked in the teeth. It was awful. I felt terrible, and it completely ruined the event for me. I was like, yep, no. It was awful, and I was down for I was probably down for months after that. It took me a long time to come back up, and once I had come back up, then I was in my head. I was telling myself all the things that I should have said. This is how I should have responded. This is, I shouldn't have just taken that. I shouldn't have just been knocked back and just gone, oh God, because I just dissolved. It was really, it was really bad. It knocked my confidence badly for months. But yeah, and then I worked out what I should have said. Of course, if you asked, if I heard that now, I would know what to say because,
Go on, let's role play it. Let's role play it, Lisa. Okay, I will be that person at the. I'm sorry about the trauma that this is going to cause, but I'm just going to do it. So give me the sort of little pitch that you gave as a very, very early on networking, nervous networker pitch. What did you say?
Well, at that point, we weren't. We were going around the table. We weren't even doing a pitch. We were just saying, I'm Lisa, I'm a proofreader. Simple as that. Right. And the response was,
oh, Oh yeah.
I'll never need a proofreader because I'm really good at Scrabble.
I'll never need a proofreader, Lisa, because I'm really good at Scrabble. Right now, we've turned the clocks back. You are now going to respond as Lisa of today, not Lisa of past. Give me your response.
I find that really interesting that you've come up with that, because what you've done there is show that I need to share a bit more about proofreading with you, because what being good at Scrabble is, it's great to be good at Scrabble. It's a great game and I really like it too. But that's really a small element of proofreading. In actual fact, that would just make me a human spell check. But what I actually do is I cover the entire book. So I'll look at it after you've had it designed and typeset. And at that point, yes, I will be looking for a spell check, but I'll also be looking for things like page numbers. You'd be amazed at how many times that sometimes you read 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8. But somebody, a human somebody, has to double check that, and that's me. And I make sure that, for instance, if you say, check the image below, that actually the image is below, maybe it's actually on the next page. Somebody has to flag that. So it's those kind of elements that will demonstrate why it'd be quite limited to think that all a proofreader does is spell check.
And that would be very memorable. And the guy, if he was the right kind of person that might do business with anybody, would then say, "Yeah, no, I'm glad you put me right, Lisa. You're quite right. It was a bit of a trite comment, actually, but I'm really, really interested to know more about it." And on we go, ladies and gentlemen. We have now replayed Lisa's networking nightmare with a happy ending. I love that.
Beautiful. I toast you. Thank you.
This is what I do. This is my favorite bit of working with clients, is when I go into role play mode. I don't put on silly voices or anything like that, but I just try and be the people that they want to be able to connect with. And it's extremely powerful. But we were having a bit of a laugh there, but with a serious point. So what really interested me in terms of talking about, by the way, fibs is something I'm fairly sure I didn't come up with till after I wrote that book. So it's not in the book. I talk about fear and I talk about these things, but I think the acronym, you might put me right, Lisa, but I don't think it's in the book. I think
I think it probably is on the is it on the cover, possibly. I think it's somewhere, because I remember
this is, ladies and gentlemen, this is where my copy editor knows more about my book than I do. But just to inform you, fibs is fears, illusions, and baggage. And I talk about the fibs that hold us back. So, Lisa, what is amazing about that story, but so recognizable, because it's happened to me over and over again, especially in those early days of networking, was the effect it had on you, how it just shoved you down this self-doubt hole, and it lingered with you, and it squashed you, basically. And that is, in a way, you sort of think, oh, that's ridiculous. It was just a throwaway line by somebody, but it really speaks to the way we hear stuff and linger on the negative, would you say?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair, because, even all these years later, I can still remember it. I can still, whilst obviously now I'm over it, as it were, I'm okay, but I still remember it. I haven't forgotten it. It's one of those things that it does stick with you, even after you've got to the stage where you are okay about it again. Whereas, as we've just demonstrated, I would do it differently now, but I recognize how how badly that upset me as a career change, a brand new business person, in this arena.
You knew that wasn't the case, but that's a logical way of thinking. And we have emotions that kick in way before our rational brain does, and that's a brilliant example of how something like that can illogically pull us down? Because part of you was no doubt thinking, oh my God, I am no more use than somebody who can play Scrabble.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Because that's it. All of those fears go on in your head after you hear that and you think, oh God, is my business just pointless? What am I even bothering for? Because anybody can do what I do. It's just it's easy for anybody who just plays a board game can do what I do. It's kind of, it's pointless. My business is completely pointless. Yeah,
that's such a recognizable inner script, I can tell you. Mine actually very early on was, which again, like you, I can recount as if it were yesterday. I can even picture the exact location, the exact hotel, little boardroom meeting space, people around the table. It was a sort of peer group type thing, and it was only a thing I was exploring. And we were all talking about what we did, and I had literally just set up as a communication coach. But my background was totally relevant as an actor, a speaker, and a degree in communication, if you like. But it was everything I'd done that brought me to be able to be of service to people. However, when I talked a little bit about my background, somebody in the group said, "But nobody cares about that." Yeah. You put your head down, I put my head down. In fact, I was struck with this mix. When you get sort of caught in your throat between anger and crying.
Yes. Oh God, yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's where I was. And that of course is very squashing, because you then can't say anything of any use whatsoever. So exactly the same thing, and it stuck with me. It so stuck with me. And so actually, in a way, in that extreme scream, I can't even say the names of the chapters in my book. It's a classic example of, I was, people get stuck then thinking, oh, well, I won't tell anybody anything about any of my other part of me, my background, my childhood, my various experiences, all of which make me the rich and individual human being that I am, and all of which bring experience that helps with what I do now, because I'm dealing with humans and all the rest of it. No, I won't tell them any of that, because nobody wants to know. Nobody wants to know about you, Tricia. Nobody wants to know. Well, they do. It's just a question. What the helpful comment at that stage would be, you've got such useful background experience, Tricia, and somehow your trick will be weaving that in to the service that you're offering and making it really relevant to the people you want to offer it to. That would have been the helpful comment. Oh gosh, let's just go back and rewrite all the networking events of our early days. So anyway, thank you. That was a brilliant story. And you said when you were preparing for this that there were quite a few more, shall we say, cases in the book. And by the way, listeners, if you haven't seen the book, read it, there's basically 8 cases, all shared by business owners, small business owners, basically working on their own. And they're all squashed in some way. They're all self-squashing in some way. And it's suffocating them as a person. They're not getting joy out of growing their business, and their business isn't really thriving as much as it should do. And all of these, fears, illusions, and baggage, inner scripts are just messing with their head. And so they are sort of 8 particular stories that get brought to Investigator Lewis, who unwraps them with the help of her friend Professor P, who brings in some of the psychology behind all of this, and then it all gets wrapped up. So are there any other, do you want to delve into this chapter called Guilty Splits, or are there any other little stories that you've got?
It's one of those things that I suspect I thought, reading through the book again, because I was reading through it again this weekend, and I thought, well, I've got so many. And the interesting thing for me is that actually a lot of my stories and a lot of how I bonded with the book came from earlier in my career change. I've settled down now as I've established my business and I am settled more. I don't have the same stories come up that I used to. Then it used to be sort of, regular things like know, things like I really like my tweed jacket, and I felt like I should wear it because it was appropriately editory. But then I sort of, sort of started to work out, well, what can I get away with wearing? What can I not get away with wearing? What should I sort of, where should I land? The clothes thing was definitely part of it. Wondering that, should I, can I get away with wearing jeans, or should I wear smart suit trousers? That was something that I did struggle with. I preferred trainers, but was I still wearing my my nice lace up brogues, leather brogues that I used to wear when I was an accountant. And I like those too, but I prefer my trainers. They're more comfortable. So it's that moment where you try and work out which bit of yourself that you want to show, and which bit of yourself that you want to sort of stand on or don't want to stand on. I've got a first in English literature. Do you know how long it's taken me to actually say that?
Wow. Really?
I just said it.
I love that. I absolutely love that, because that again, one of the chapters is about this woman who's apologetic about her qualifications because she remembers being called a clever clogs as a kid, and nobody likes to show off and all of that kind of thing, and being bullied at school every time she put her hand up because Miss Know It All, and so she's now paranoid about people knowing that she's got all these various qualifications, and it is weird. That's the dumbing down case, and yeah. I first in English literature, a first in English literature, listeners. This is who you want to work with. But yeah, I mean, and that takes a lot of work and effort and skill, and it's more than playing Scrabble.
Ooh, nice one.
Yeah, I love that tweed jacket story because yes, one of the cases is involves a red dress, and it is based on a very personal experience. So we won't go into that for the moment, but it's in the book. But yeah, all of these things, they're all little weirdnesses that we get hung up on. Are we doing the right thing? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Is this the right look? Is this too much? Is this not enough? Oh my gosh. And you're right. Hopefully if we recognize this stuff, which is why I wrote the book, because I also grew through all this. But if we recognize it, then we've got more chance of working through it. If we don't know what's going on, when we just feel rubbish and useless, that just doesn't help us very much at all. So that's getting it out on the forensics table is what we're doing. So this chapter that I call Guilty Splits, which is relevant potentially to you because you are a mum, and listeners, I hope when you read this book, it's not too literal. I mean, you don't have to be a mum as such, but there will be some other aspect of your life as you're beginning to grow your business that you also want to dedicate time to, you also want to be good at, and all the rest of it. And then lo and behold, you're getting this horrendous, I'm going to call it guilt, okay? But that's a very interesting word. Have you read the, I admit I haven't read it from cover to cover, the book by Brene Brown?
I haven't, no.
No.
I'm aware of it.
Yeah, she has a number of books, but I think this is from I Thought It Was Just Me, brackets, but it isn't, which is a great title, I suppose. It is a good title, actually.
It is.
He talks about guilt versus shame. Do you recognize? I mean, you're a word person, Lisa. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things, that I was thinking about the guilty splits. And I was remembering, because my daughter's 14 now, so times have changed, things have moved on. But when I first started my business, she was, at primary school, much younger. And I had a client who would come in and sort of say, I've got X thousand words, can you do it for tomorrow by this time tomorrow? And the way that I made it work, so it didn't impact on my daughter, was I used to get up at like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning to work early before she had to go to school, and I was dealing with walking her to school and that kind of stuff. And now caveat, I am a morning person, but I'm not quite that early. That's out there for me. But I did it regularly, and I sort of thought, well, this is how I'm managing it. But looking back on it now, I'm thinking, well, it's not very healthy for me getting up really early, and sort of pushing myself as hard as I could to make sure that I both met the business deadlines. I've never missed a deadline, and I certainly did not want to start then, but also was always there for her in the morning. So those two things were both really important, that kind of, pulling in different directions, but they were both really, really important to me. And how I did it was in a way that, looking back at it now, I'm thinking, yeah, that wasn't very healthy. That wasn't necessarily the best choice. But if you don't make that work, then the feeling bad about it, disappointed in yourself, and that's the key thing for me. It's the being disappointed in myself. That's the not worrying that that anybody else is going to be, but worrying that I am going to be disappointed in me. If I can't manage this, then that's my problem. That's on me.
That's really interesting, because technically, I guess there are two options. Say in that particular scenario, you could either say, I won't be able to get it done by that time tomorrow, but I will be able to get it done by the following morning at whatever. In other words, you take the reins on this deadline situation, or you say to your daughter, you're going to have a sleepover and they're going to take you to school and leave me alone. You can do either one of those, and you found a way around it, but you couldn't probably do that long term. So if you'd had a number of commitments and you were constantly doing that for years, that, as you say, would really not be good for your health. So then the way I try to look at it, this doesn't really apply to me any longer, but is that you're no good to anybody else if you're knackered, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's one of those things that I really, and as I say, she's 14 now, time has moved on. Those days are gone, and I have changed I mostly work on books now. So we agree a longer timescale, and it needs a longer timescale for me to really do my best work.
Yeah.
So it's a different, I don't work on those kind of clients that need a super quick turnaround anymore. So the world has moved on and times have changed, but I still vividly remember, thinking, oh God, I've got to get this done now. Because I don't want to take any time when I could be spending with her, to waste it on work when I could be spending it with her.
I like the way you put that, to waste it on work, which I think is a fair way to address it. Yeah. Brene Brown talks about shame being about who we are and guilt is about what we do, our behavior. So it's quite an interesting, I think it is quite an interesting, because shame is all pervasive, and you can carry that around for a long time. Whereas actually, if you just think, I wasn't there to see her recital or whatever, I probably should have rearranged my diary to do that. That really should just be a little moment of guilt that you didn't organize that better, possibly, but it shouldn't be all pervasive. But we do tend to make these things all pervasive. I could still go back now and think of, oh God, if only I'd done that, then this and that, and I'm sure that wasn't good for my kid or whatever. Mum guilt obviously is a huge thing, but we probably need to just sort of take a breath and think, some of the things that I now see in my grown-up kids, I kind of think, well, that's maybe partly because they did see the sort of bit of the work element, the creativity, the not always completely organized and perfect thing going on, which is kind of part of their growth. That's I think quite a nice reframe. You can't be perfect. Being perfect might not be the best approach for the ultimate growth of your kids. There we go. That's my cop out.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's I think you sort of get to the stage where you just accept that, you know, this is going to happen sometimes, and you're just going to have to find a way to deal with it and to cope with it. And you do, and you know, time flows on, doesn't it? What I needed to give to her when she was younger is not the same thing that I feel that I need to share with her now.
Well, what you're sharing with her now is what I just said. Is, you know, a mum who works and does really interesting work, which is also giving her, you know, a buzz, which is a good thing, I think, for an older kid to see in a parent. Obviously, when they're little primary school kids, they probably don't think quite like, oh, I'm so glad my mother is working, because this is a great role model for me. They probably think, you know, why hasn't mum got my favourite cake for tea or something? But that's, as you say, times move on. So don't let something, I suppose, dwell with you. And going back and thinking I should have, shouldn't have is no good for anyone, is it? So listen, we could carry on talking about all this stuff till the cows come home. I don't know why I've mentioned cows, because I have a cow phobia, so I wish I hadn't done that. But anyway,
can we talk about that?
No, I don't want to talk about that, Lisa. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move along.
I've been offered hypnotherapy by a lovely person on LinkedIn. I should possibly take it up. But so tell people where they can find more of you.
The best place to look is probably my website, ldceditorial.co.uk. I'm often on LinkedIn. You can find me there. Wait for it. I've got a YouTube channel, the Editorial Cuppa. So you could, and there I'm answering questions that I've been asked about editing or proofreading, and I will answer them. And I will sit here with my mug, and I will say, this is this, and this is that, and this is what I think. And I better check that.
I love that.
I double check everything. That's one of the things that's really important. Is that's one of the kind of things that's kind of implicit in editing and proofreading. You double check everything. Oh, you do. I double check everything. It's fine.
Yes. I mean, I didn't double check the admin on this podcast interview, because if I had, I'd realised that I hadn't sent you the actual Zoom link, and you wouldn't have needed to panic 10 minutes before the call. So, you know, I'm not a brilliant double checker, which is why people like you exist in our world. And listeners, you don't need any more recommendation, really. I am telling you, this book would not be the book it is without the input of my book team, which included Lisa. So, you know, job done, really.
That's kind.
Very much. And thank you for all your fabulous little stories and insights, Lisa. It's been a joy.
It's been absolutely my pleasure. And I shall toast you again.
And if you want to get a copy of my book, The Mystery of the Squash Self, you can head over to Amazon, or just go to trishalewis.com, where you'll find links to the book, the TEDx, and other unsquashing resources. Till the next time, stay curious and unsquashed.